Hi everyone, my name is Courtney and welcome back to my channel. And today I'm going to be doing a review of Bánh Mì for Two. This is going to be a mostly, hopefully spoiler-free review. I really want to discuss this book and let you know about it, and hopefully more readers can find this because it was very cute, very sweet, and I haven't heard a lot about it, haven't seen a lot of people discuss it, so I just wanted to let you guys know about it. So Bánh Mì for Two, it is a contemporary sapphic novel set in today's Saigon, and it has dual perspectives. And like I said, it's extremely cute. It's also a very short novel. I think it's just under the 300 page mark, so it's cute, it's quick, it's snappy, and if you're looking for just a short, fun YA contemporary, this is gonna get you there. But there's also a lot of depth here as well. It's not just this cute, fluffy story. There's a lot more going on, so let's get into it. So the novel follows two characters. Like I said, it's dual perspective. We are following Vivi, who is Vietnamese American. Her parents are both from Saigon, but her father came to America as a child, while her mom was in her early 20s to late teens when she immigrated, and her mom kind of just refuses to talk about Vietnam and about her family. And Vivi is actually supposed to be on a summer abroad trip in Singapore. That's what she told her parents, but it was all a ruse so that she could go to Saigon and experience her mom's home country, maybe hopefully find her family, and maybe also find this vlogger that she likes to follow. And then our second perspective is Lan, and Lan gave up her dreams for the future when her father passed away 4 years ago, and she really feels like she has to help her family and her mother especially run this banh mi stand, and so she's kind of given up the idea of going to college and becoming a writer. She needs to stay at home, help her mom, and help run this food stall. She does kind of have a side project, a side dream that she works on, which is her blog that's dedicated to the street food of Saigon, but she's been having a lot of writer's block and she's been really struggling. So both girls are dealing with emotional stuff. They're both dealing with family stories, which make for really compelling character journeys for both girls separately, so that when they do come together, they really have a compelling story outside just their cute little romance. While Lan's big story is really dealing with the grief of her father, it's also a lot about her mother, so both of these girls are dealing with these like mother-daughter storylines, which really connect them together as well. And like I said, Lan runs this food social media that Vivi follows, so there is that cute connection there as well. It doesn't dive too much into the fangirl aspect, but it is really sweet to see Vivi meeting someone that she really loves, and then it's them connecting over food, over street food of Saigon, which really makes their romance compelling because they have all these really interesting points of connection. I would say though that the connection or how they get together as like a friend group in the beginning is a little bit tenuous. So Lan, like I said, is struggling a lot with writer's block. She doesn't feel like anything she writes is good. She doesn't feel like she's seeing the city the way that she used to. She's not inspired. And so Vivi coming to Saigon and seeing everything with new fresh eyes is really inspiring to her, which I think worked really, really well. But, you know, Vivi kind of pops into the scene. She's very energetic. Lan is a little bit more reserved. And Vivi's excited to meet this person that she's really admired for so long. And she has this contest that she's already sent to Lan and saying, hey, you should join this. And so, like, Vivi coming in and being like, wait, let me help you. I can help you with your writing. I can help you with the vlog. That part was a little bit tenuous for me. Once they started that connection and started going to places together, I think it really worked. But the beginning part where they are connecting, I felt like could have been finessed a little bit more. I was thinking it would help a lot if maybe Vivi was really passionate about food photography, and so that gave them a reason to connect more, for Lan to be like, oh, I need this person's help. Maybe Vivi is just really into editing writing. She's not a writer herself, but she loves reading and fixing writing. Just something to give Vivi a little bit more credentials for why she thinks that she can help Lan. Or maybe they could have pushed on that connection a little bit more, and maybe Vivi and Lan had already talked to each other and been friends a little bit online. Again, it's not the biggest issue. It's a very short novel. I get we gotta get into the business really quickly, but that's just one point where I thought there could be a little bit more there just to make it make sense why they decide to help each other out. But it's not a big misstep because again, we get into the plot and it becomes just really, really excellent from there. I don't want to say points, but there's kind of three things that this novel is trying to do. We have the main narrative of the novel, which is just the plot, going on these food journeys, connecting, falling in love with each other. And I feel like this story is, again, really compelling. It's fast paced. You have the mystery of Vivi's family, as well as Lan's reservations and what she's dealing with. So there's enough to drive their individual stories as well as drive them together into interesting, fun situations. The other main point of this novel, I feel like, is really centered around descriptions of food and the connection of that to culture. Descriptions of scenery and that connection to culture was also a big aspect. And I feel like these sections had the strongest writing that were just really, really compelling. They let the characters be a little bit more poetic, a little bit more more waxing, but again, it also fit nicely into connecting with the culture of Vietnam and the wider history of food and culture in Vietnam. And it was one of my favorite points of the novel, was getting to read these descriptions, and the history made me really, really hungry. So be warned of that. You might need to eat something while you're reading this novel. You're definitely going to crave banh mi. And then the other big point of this novel was really to introduce Vietnamese and Vietnamese American history. And this was both on a character basis, so it was really connected to these characters' pasts, but it also did give you a larger scope of the history of Vietnam. And with this, I think the author was really trying to tell readers about a very unique experience that isn't really discussed a lot in history textbooks and books in general. It was also a point of connection for Vietnamese people and Vietnamese American readers. And so who am I to say if it was dumbed down or not for a white reader? But I enjoyed it. I thought it added good context to the story, and I can see why it would be such a joy to read when you don't get to see this history very often. But that being said, the characters going into the Vietnamese history, as well as a lot of the plot and the dialogue surrounding just the characters interacting, I felt like could be very direct at times. So you're getting these really beautiful descriptions of the food and the scenery, but the characters interacting, the narrative plot, and the Vietnamese history that the characters are saying or interacting with people who are talking about it, it is very to the point and very direct to reader. And the dialogue especially is where I had the most, I don't want to call it problems. This directness was really coming through in the dialogue that the characters were saying to each other, because the characters were basically saying exactly what they were thinking, and that meant that the characters were saying everything in the most perfect way that they possibly could. So basically, they're talking about a history moment, or, you know, there's a family dynamic moment, a moment of tension between family members, and they're able to say exactly what they're thinking. They're able to say the most perfect version of what they're thinking and get their thoughts across. And so there's not a lot of nuance or subtlety, just like not a lot of people are able to really say what they are thinking all the time. I don't think it worked against the novel though. I think this is what made the novel really compelling and a really great read, but for younger readers. Vivi and Lon are older teens. They're both 18. Vivi is, I believe, in her first year of college, whereas Lon should have been in her first year of college. So they're between the ages of 17 and 19, but I could still see this being a very compelling read for ages like 13 to 16. And again, this directness for me as a reader maybe doesn't work, where I want a little bit more nuance and subtlety and a little bit more tension between characters. But I think for a younger reader, it really, really worked well. And I think the author did what they were trying to do, which was get very specific things across. So while it's not for me, I do think it's going to be great for a lot of readers, which is why I really wanted to discuss this book. Again, I haven't seen a lot of longer reviews for it, and so I really just wanted to tell people about this because it was cute, it was fun, it was sweet, but it did have a lot of depth. I always want a romance that isn't just about the characters falling in love. I want family conflict, friend conflict, something to give the characters more stakes, to give them a more fleshed out personality, and I felt like we had this here. They were very distinct characters with very distinct backgrounds, and they had a lot that they were dealing with. It got to be a coming of age story as well as this romance. And I would say in a lot of ways, it might be even more of a character journey story, a coming of age story, than the romance. So I keep calling it a romance, but it really is more than that. There's a lot of great work that this author put in here, and I'm definitely looking forward to more books by them in the future, because again, this was a very compelling read, a very fast read, and definitely something I wanted to let other people know about. So if you've been looking for a YA sapphic contemporary, this is definitely going to be up your alley. It delivers everything that it's trying to do in a very nice, neat package. So yeah, that's going to be my review for A Banh Mi for Two. I didn't want to give too much away because I do want people to go and discover this book and read it for themselves, but it's so nice when you get to read a book where it's very obvious that the author had a very specific thing they were trying to do, and I felt like the narrative really was able to do that. The pacing was fast but good, and so it felt like even though that this novel was on the shorter side, on the fast-paced side, that there was still a lot of depth to these characters and their stories. I gave this a 3 out of 5 stars because hey, I'm a 30-year-old person reading this, but there's something about reading young adult contemporaries, especially like gay ones, that just always make me so happy, so I have to let other people know about them. But yeah, let me know if you've picked up and read A Banh Mi for Two. Let me know if you're going to read it now. I would love to know. But thank you so much for watching. I'll see you guys later, and happy reading.